Hey everyone, let's talk about immigration. We've had this thing come out with the DACA being phased out. Apparently the courts have concluded, as we already knew, that DACA was unconstitutional. Basically the program grants those who arrived in America before they were like 15 and have been here for like, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and basically said, well, squatters' rights, they've been here a long time, they haven't been challenged or they haven't been sent back. Their life is basically here, that's all they know. So the executive order said, the president says, I'm going to be the legislative branch because I can't get the Congress to do what I want, and I'm going to basically create legislation. And in doing so, he violated the Constitution. We all know that the Congress is the one that's supposed to create the legislation, and the executive branch approves or vetoes it. So the courts rightly found DACA to be unconstitutional and threatened to end it completely, and thus a compromise was reached as far as phasing it out to make well, a little bit less pain and a little bit more order to the whole thing. But we're here to talk about immigration, the merits of immigration. Even illegals, I don't mind talking about that because I want to focus on the impact of foreigners on jobs, economics, and values. We oftentimes hear people say, well, do you really support illegals when they're stealing jobs from the many Americans who are unemployed, right? If they didn't have those jobs, then the unemployed Americans would have those jobs, thus they wouldn't be unemployed. I'm gonna show you the economics on it and why having new people into the system does not have any of that kind of effect. But I'm also going to show the negative effect of bringing new people in the wrong way. And then, of course, I think it goes without saying that if our laws don't mean anything, then well, there's no point of our nation, right? And now I don't agree with a lot of the laws. There are some that I vehemently disagree with, but I would not undermine the laws like the executive branch had done with that with the DACA. I wouldn't. There's no way I could do that. I feel an obligation to support the even corrupt laws on the books and try to work through the system to get things fixed, not to just, broad stroke of the pen. To me, it was not only unconstitutional, but I think it was so blatantly subverting the system of checks and balances that we have that keep our government okay and from not becoming a tyranny and an awful government. That, to be honest, I would even say it's treason. What was done regarding DACA, and a lot of other things were in my books on the same level with treason. But anyhow, let's not go there. Let's talk about economics. All right, so let's illustrate economics. What I have here is basically a representation of rich, medium class, and poor by the white, blue, and red circles. And below you'll see a smaller circle called new. Now, the three circles above it represent the population divided up into the different groups. And I do that to help visualize the economic system a little bit better, and to help to show where this new person fits in and how the new person affects everything. Okay, on the left you're going to see jobs divided up into management, tech, and basic services, which not coincidentally align with the populations. And then on the right you see the markets, also divided up into rich, medium, and poor. I have examples for each of these, even though that doesn't encompass everything. So, for instance, there are a lot of rich jobs that aren't just management, and there's a lot of things that we consider luxury purchases or luxury spending that's not just vacations and boats. But just to give you a visualization, a concept of what these things are, and to show how much of an overlap there is in each of these. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some lines and to connect everything up. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to grab some arrows. Okay, so typically what we see is the rich come from the rich jobs, high income. Okay, now it's not to say that a poor person could never get a rich job. Okay, it's just to say that usually if a person is poor, they are let me draw a new, let me see if I can do this somewhat, maybe not more efficiently. It's just to say that in general, a poor person is probably going to be getting a basic services job. That's why they're poor. So the first concept of wealth has to do with income. Income's the driving factor. If you want to get more wealthy, you increase your income. Now, it's not to say that you have to get traditional jobs. So this is kind of an illustration of the traditional job marketplace, because that's where most people get their money. But there are plenty of other ways to get income. And as you do these traditional jobs, you learn the skills necessary to get your income from maybe less traditional roles. For instance, you learn these basic services, and you learn some tech. You could combine them together to organize a group, maybe a company, to do something, and then you're part of management. So you put things together to get more wealth coming in. But in general, I'm just going to draw these lines to show where the wealth is coming from. Now, I'm going to also, let me see how quickly I can grab these lines. Apologize for the delay here, but I'm using PowerPoint. Okay, so now in general, though, we see the rich, where they spend most of their money. Is it on any of these things? And to be honest, if they're going to stay rich, the rich people actually spend their money on getting more wealth. So, a good portion does go to some of the rich, nice things. Okay, let me see if I can try this again. A large portion goes to here, but a large portion also goes back into, maybe I'll just add this on here as part of luxury spending. We'll add and companies, okay, or investments, right? So I'm going to say companies, investments, whatever. Now, it's not to say that, again, the poor people cannot put their money towards vacations, because they do, just not quite as much of it, because they don't quite have as much. So poor people, medium class people will invest, but not quite as much. And in fact, if they invested more into companies and things like that, maybe they would have another way to become rich, right? Another income stream. So maybe there's room for saying that there's something in, not even categorized in here or to the left, that has to do with investing, but that requires that you have money, and that's principally driven initially by these three sectors. So I'm going to keep it simple. All right, so that's good. Another one, the poor people generally are buying food and clothing. They're surviving a lot better than the rest of the poor people in the world. In America, the poor people do have money to spend on houses and entertainment. They may not go out to the nicest restaurants, but they do go out to eat sometimes. They do have cell phones and go to movies. So these arrows that I'm drawing are principal vectors. So, but do realize that each of these groups are driving demand for the rest. The rich people will be spending money towards entertainment and towards food. It just maybe be a little bit nicer food and maybe a little nicer clothing, right? But it will go down to food and clothing as well, that we all need to eat. Okay, so now that we have the primary streams, now let's figure out this new person. Now, an immigrant could be any one of these three. Could be poor, medium class, or rich. They could have no skills, some medium tech skills, or even management or wealthy skills. So let's evaluate the new person coming in, okay, on each of these levels. So let's say the typical example of an immigrant. These are the illegals, the ones crossing the border in desperation for the American dream. I don't know, whatever it is. They just think they're gonna get free stuff. Whatever, there's whatever drive it is. They're down here. What's going to happen, and this is the beauty of economies, okay, is that these new people are going to need some jobs. Now let's say we don't make it illegal for an illegal to have a job, okay, because in the end they're going to get a job, and even under the counter, that job is going to be done by someone and not a resident, right? Not a citizen, not someone that's legal. So we're going to consider that some of the basic services jobs, we'll say a very small portion, will go to this new person. Okay, so I'm going to draw an arrow that's diverting some jobs away from the basic services. Okay, so is it true that some of these jobs are being stolen by the immigrants? Okay, we'll evaluate that in just a second. Okay, now these new people, being poor, their primary spending is going to be towards the necessities. So we're going to draw an arrow towards the basic necessities, food and clothing. Now they may actually get some money and do these other things, but we're just looking at the primary, just to see the big picture, what's the big stuff that's happening. Okay, so by the new person needing food and clothing, and remember, everyone has needs. Those needs drive a demand for services, basic services. Okay, so while the new person is taking a very small portion of the overall jobs from basic services, the new person is also adding an equivalent amount of need for the basic services. Okay, food and clothing and services along that way. Now, and this extends to the other tiers, but let's just consider the poor tier for now, right? The cheap tier, the survival tier. So every dollar that the new person earns is a dollar that the new person is going to be spending towards food and clothing. And if they're saving it, good for them. I should say if they're investing it, good for them, because that investment goes towards creating companies, basically. So it goes towards enabling the offering of all of these things. So either way, what the new person earns goes back into the economy in some way. I mean, what is the company that the new person, I'm going to call it the foreigner, invests in? Well, that company is going to use that dollar to hire people, right? And to procure goods and services. So in the end, even if the new person invests, that dollar goes to the goods and services driving what their needs are. Okay, so it's completely balanced here. It's not like they're requiring more housing and entertainment, but only providing basic services skills. Okay, so it's a net cancel. And so this is what undermines the entire idea behind the pie model of wealth, which is to say, in the entire world, there's one giant slice of pie, and anybody that eats a portion of that pie denies everyone else that portion of the pie, so that the only way to give people that are deemed to have not enough of the pie is to steal from those who are deemed to have too much of the pie. Progressivism, the nasty philosophy, stealing from others. It's equivalent of violence and war. So, but back to here, the idea that a new person steals jobs is completely untrue, because the new person creates, by their purchasing of things, they create just as much need for their services. That need for the services is called jobs. Okay, they create jobs by purchasing these things. Okay, so it's going to be probably a little faster to take it up the tiers, because as a medium class person. Again, the new person will be primarily buying tech stuff, though they will be also buying basic stuff. No, I'm getting this backwards. They'll be having a tech job, though. Let's see, would they be doing basic service? Probably not. And they will be primarily putting their money into houses and entertainment. A little bit will be going towards food and clothing. Okay, so they'll be creating a need for both basic services jobs and technical jobs. Okay, again, up the tier, if a rich immigrant comes in with lots of skills and lots of knowledge, able to do these more wealthy jobs, merit them at least, then yeah, they're going to be, again, drawing in a lot of money and putting in a lot of money to the more wealthy things. And so, when they purchase boats, those boats are going to cost a lot of money, and they're going to have to be constructed using basic services. They're going to have to be constructed using tech services, and management. Obviously, is going to be a need for companies to construct those boats as well. So they're putting money into all three tiers of jobs. So by spending, they create jobs. This is what is meant by spending creates jobs. An equal amount of money, because let's just assume they're not saving, okay? Or they're spending. They're either spending on this or they're spending on companies and investing. All the money that comes to this new person is going to go back into the economy. All of it. They're not going to get loads of cash and put it in a safe and let it just sit in the safe and do nothing. That money is going to go out there and do stuff. As long as money is spent, money is doing things. So you can't really say that this new person is taking away a job from a rich, from unemployed rich people, if that even exists, because they're creating just as much jobs by their spending. Now, the only exception to this is if a person gets paid more than what they what they offer in value. So the entire key to economics is productivity. So immigration only works, and really an economy only works, if this new person is productive. So the goal, the primary goal in bringing immigrants in, is that they contribute. Productive means they don't just have a job, but the services that they do is meeting the needs of those who are putting their money into the economy. So when people are coming out here and buying these things, everybody in this pool is actually producing. So I'm going to go ahead and put really important key thing right above this labor group. Productivity is what an economy is all about. And the more productive people can be, the more they produce, the cheaper things become, the more they can buy. That's the cycle of productivity. I'm not going to write that all here, but please remember that. So if you can build machines and then have all three of these groups use these machines, you make them more productive. And while you might say that it takes away jobs on the left here, by making them more productive, they're still going to have their same needs. But now all of this stuff on the right is cheaper, and so they buy more of it, and by buying more of it, that creates more jobs. So the jobs for the existing level of services and goods may go down, but the existing level does not stay the same, right? As soon as the costs here go down due to automation, now the existing levels go up. All three of these groups, we all have insatiable needs. If you were to give me $1 million, I would spend it all, right? I'm not going to hide anything in any cash in a vault and let it do nothing. So as long as I have desires and my desires are insatiable, meaning that there's no end to the things I can think to spend my money on, it's going to go back into the economy and it's going to create more jobs. And the net amount of productivity that comes out of here is what's going to be fueling the entire economy. It's going to fuel what's available. It's going to make it cheaper for us. Not cheaper for the rest of the world, but cheaper for us because we're productive. And it's going to fuel more jobs for us. All right. So now there's one more thing I want to mention, not just that productivity is the key of immigration, but there's two parts. I want to talk about politics at the end, but there's one other aspect. There are certain aspects of our economy in all three of these tiers, but mostly really in the top two tiers, where basically we've got jobs, but we can't get them filled. Now, it'll be another discussion to go over why people are unemployed and why it is that our unemployment figures are actually very low compared to what the real number is. And it has to do with government reporting and people who simply aren't reporting their unemployment, who are unemployed but are not reporting it. And there are reasons for that. But let's just look at if there are parts of these two levels, the medium wealth and the high wealth jobs. There are parts where there are jobs that are not filled. The reasons that the jobs are not filled is because people cannot find people that fit what they're looking for. Now, if we can find people that fit what they're looking for in other countries, then it makes sense to bring them in, because then they fill the need of people that can not only be productive, but that can produce what we need on the right side. So everything on the right side is what needs producing. Okay, everything on the right is needs producing, and if we don't have the people on the left to produce it, then that hurts our economy because we can't buy the things we need, which means they become more expensive because it's less available to us. The more available these things are, the more companies are out there producing, the more people that can produce these things, the cheaper things get. Okay, now one really, really bad practice is bringing in not just poor people like maids, cleaning service, things like that, from immigrants from outside, because there is a role for bringing in people like that, because we do have needs sometimes in different areas of even basic services for people to come in and do. But and sometimes it's called doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. That's not really what it is. That's kind of a lie. What it is doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do for the wages currently being offered. So if you offer me enough money to drive around in a dump truck and pick up trash, you offer me enough money, I'll do it. Okay? You pay me $1 million a year to do that, I'll do it. Any American would do it. So it's not that we don't want to, it's just we don't want to for the price. And so it's not that you're bringing, and I'm going to bring the immigrant down in the basic service, it's not just that you're bringing immigrants in to do what Americans don't want to do. What you're really doing is bringing in immigrants to do a job at a cheaper price than what we want to do it. So the existing pool, red, white, and blue, is funny, I have those, I didn't mean to, it's like American now. Kind of, the order isn't, I'm not going for order. But, so, back to what I was saying. It's basically that certain industries, certain companies are looking for cheap labor. Certain people, the wealthy, want cheap labor. They want maids and servants and butlers and people to attend to them, but they want it for cheap. So you bring in tons of low-skilled immigrants and you'll get it for cheap. You drive the price down for everyone, and then these low-skilled immigrants have a hard time even surviving because they're not getting paid that much, right? Nobody can survive when the wages are $1 an hour. How are you going to even buy food for that, right? And so hence the discussion of minimum wage, which is a stupid idea. No, the problem is not minimum wage or the lack thereof. The problem is immigration. Not just immigration, it's the wrong kind of immigration. Bringing in the wrong people at the wrong time. Bringing in people with no skills, too much of them, to flood the basic services, and make the wages for the poor, the poor illegals that are coming in, well, nothing, right? And the wages are nothing. Of course, Americans aren't going to want to work for nothing, right? Because you drove by bringing in too many immigrants of the poor variety. You force the wages down. Now, here's the thing: if you can get these immigrants extremely productive, that can help in driving a lot of value into the economy. But even still, by having a lot of the poor services, you need more rich and medium people to drive the demand. So the more rich and medium people are in the population to buy these maids and butlers. I'm just using those as an example of like low wage. I know there's some higher wages people that are maids, but I'm just saying the more medium and rich people that you have, the more need for these basic services, the higher their wages go up. So you can have more of these poor immigrants if you also have more medium wealth and rich immigrants, or I should say medium skilled and rich and high skilled immigrants. Okay, so it's about skill. An economy requires a mix of skill. You can't have everybody producing basic services and everybody buying luxury items. It doesn't work that way, right? Luxury items needs a mix of all three of these tiers. Now, there will be room, and I'm probably not going to go into it now, on talking about how people even providing basic services do not have to make a very small amount of money. But I think the illustration of the American poor versus the world poor is a good example. The American poor have cell phones, smartphones, whereas the average poor person in the rest of the world, maybe in third world countries, have nothing, literally. Maybe an analog phone if they were given it as used from, some do-good agency, as donated from an American. Okay, but they don't have anything. So there are different levels of poor, but the poor in America is not really poor. Okay, so it's to say that as the economy improves, the American poor will be able to purchase more and more entertainment, more and more vacations, other things. And here's the cool thing: in America we have this mobility. So as I was talking about before, and I will draw one more, let's see if I can do it, one more arrow to show the mobility, which I'm sure you can already sense coming. The American poor being able to move up the spectrum as they gain new skills and make themselves more valuable. Okay, and in fact, everybody has to start at the poor. When I came out of high school and even college, my skills weren't that high, so I had to start pretty low. I started in here on the low end of tech, mostly because I got a physics degree, and you can't do anything with the BS in physics, but that's another point. But the main point is that I was able to take that position with a college degree that wasn't worth so much and build up skills so that now I think I'm kind of around here, okay, a little bit above maybe the medium of the medium tech, okay, and eventually I really probably can get up to wealthy, okay, but it's going to take a lot of vision, good vision and learning from others. So in this way, really this is only a ladder. Everyone begins as someone who doesn't know anything, as an intern, and takes cheap jobs so that they can learn the skills necessary to become higher income people, right? Higher income earners. All right, so and the goal, I think, would be when we bring in foreigners, we would bring them in with the idea of saying, okay, we have these needs in our economy, and the smart way to do it is to say, let me get rid of these lines for a second, is to say, let me draw another, let's see, where would I draw it? Another shape. In the tech industry, we've got a hole right here. Okay, services that need filling, and we find the people inside America or outside, right? If we can't find it inside, we turn outside, kind of like a corporation does. And then we say, We found a person that can fill that slot. We get them to promise to fill it. We get them to promise to obey our laws, to respect our values and culture, and then we have them on probation, showing that they can value and respect everything, American, right? And then we place them in here. Okay, that was interesting. I'll send it to the back. Anyhow, so we place them in there, right? And then now that they have a good starting point. So now, if there's somebody that maybe is a close match, maybe we say, all right, somebody that came in that was new before, okay, that maybe they are a wealthy person, or they have high skills, so they're up here. Maybe we say one of the conditions of coming in is that you have to teach skills to not just the new people, but also to those who already live here, the residents and citizens. Okay, that you have to spend some community time, community service, in exchange for being here and on your probation and showing that you can be a good resident. Okay, so in that way, this is my idea, what I think should happen, and it's not really capitalistic. It's just more of an agreement that we require so that it improves our economy. And basically, this would enable the upward mobility, because I'm coming to the end here. The skills from the new person in the higher skill set is transferred to the new person in the lower skill set that's on the same track, and then that person, and not just the new person, right? I'll send this arrow to the residents as well, right? So they teach for volunteer, pro bono. They teach these guys their skills, and then when this new person gets the skills and then moves up, then this foreigner also sends his skills to everyone else too. So I'm going to show another arrow. Once he's up there, he'll be teaching other people as well, right? Lastly, obviously, this person who's in a medium skill set can be teaching those in the basic skill set and be helping our American poor and any new people that are in the basic services. I'm not going to draw a new one. I just have too many new people in here. But I think you get the idea that we have immigrants teaching their skills to others. And in teaching their skills to others, also, obviously, they would be required to teach in English, and that would force them to learn English better, to pronounce English better, and for the immigrants coming in to, as they're getting taught, to learn English better too, as these people learn how to pronounce English and talk American better. So anyhow, yeah, all this pro bono stuff is not just for giving back and improving the economy, but helping with the integration and speaking English better and feeling more part of the culture. When you can talk like everyone else, it's just a lot easier to associate with everyone else, all the other residents, right? All the other citizens. Okay, so thanks for having a look at this illustration. I hope it made sense, and I'm going to end it here. Please like this video, share it. To be honest, anybody that has the idea about the pie idea of wealth or the pie idea of jobs, it's not true. Please share it with them so they can see and understand this idea of economics. Anyone that has the idea of the caste system where poor people have to stay poor and medium people stay medium, it's not true in America. And yeah, this shows the mobility, right? You can move yourself up the income ladder. All right. Now, I guess one last thing I would like to debunk is that it is sometimes said that the best way to deal with financial crisis is to lower your spending. To a point, I think that can be useful and helpful to increase the efficiency in your spending, to get rid of some of the more expensive things when you can't afford it. But to be honest, I found the easiest way is to simply increase your income through learning more skills, working harder. And the more you work, the less you spend, right? Because your time is spent working and learning instead of instead of being bored and spending. So yeah, just please consider the mobility comes, this is why I put it on the left side, comes from increasing the income, not and that's why I didn't put the arrow on the right side, not necessarily in decreasing the expenses, though that can have a small effect, right? Depending on how exorbitant your expenses are compared to what you're able to support. All right, thanks for watching. Please share. Great talking to you. Enjoy. Bye.